So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Good evening. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. It is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies. There's no gentleman here, so. So we're going to discuss budgets tonight, obviously. But before we get started, our town administrator, Jamie Kelly, is just going to give us an overview on some numbers and see what's good. Hopefully.
Mr. Chairman, just to back up, did you say there were no gentlemen here?
I did. We're not. I know what you mean. I was pointing to the audience. I was kind of being funny, you know. I was trying to be funny. We were considered mean last week, so.
But with class.
Yes.
All right, just some housekeeping. You've got a packet of budgets. That the top one says reserve fund.
Yep.
That is the promised no change budgets. Nothing's been changed. And so I just wanted to get those to you. A lot of them are typical, every year have the same amount. Hopefully we won't have to touch any of them, but I don't promise. I haven't updated the revenue sheet, but I gave it to you anyway tonight because I've got a little cheat sheet because so many people seem to not understand where our revenue comes from and why we're in the financial hole that we're in. I know that this committee understands it, but it's some talking points because some of the other boards and committees seem very shocked when you try to explain the town finances to them. But the tax levy, there's four sources of revenue, as you know. The tax levy is between 60 to 64% of the total revenue. Your increases each year are bounded by the 2.5 proposition. However, average yearly increases are around 3%. 2.5 growth for fiscal year 26 was estimated at 560,000. New growth, which has gone down every year from fiscal 22, it was 444,000. Now we estimate around 2,000 and we'll be lucky to get that. And that's,
200, yeah.
200,000.
yeah, 200,000. Huh?
You said 2,000.
Well,
Yeah, we don't want to take some.
We want more than
Bad
that.
enough.
200,000, but who knows? State aid's 24% of the total revenue. However, the increase in state aid, no matter how much our legislative delegation pat themselves on the back, averages between 0.5% to 1.5% a year. So if you figure inflation is somewhere hovering around 3%, state aid isn't even covering that. And when you look at their assessments that they're taking off the top of state aid, we lose money
Yeah.
year to year. Local receipts are about 10 to 11% of the total revenue. We've had years, we spiked in fiscal '24, and that's when I've been here a little while, and we looked through the receipts, and we looked through how you were investing your funds, and we looked how you were doing your banking, and you made some abysmal deals prior to, and capped your investment income at 100,000.
We didn't make abysmal deals, just to make that clear.
No, the
Okay.
town did.
All right.
The town did. And we've gone up to 500,000 in investment income since. But you can't count on it. Part of that was because we also banked and went into the money markets with our ARPA funds. Miscellaneous, last year we used it.
Excuse me, Mr. Kelly, just back onto the local receipts.
Yep,
We're looking at a $250,000 deficit in local receipts, 26?
from that high point.
Okay,
We've gone down every year since then, but we've gone down because, and we're going down this year, obviously because we're spending the ARPA money. We have to spend it by June.
okay, thank you.
And the Slocum Street project shovel on in April. So that's gonna be nice.
What's up with Hammond Street, just curious?
That-
Not to go off subject.
I think this, well, you always jump off the subject, but I think
Thanks.
I think the state is waiting for the migratory wildlife to go through once more before we finish with the blacktop and everything else.
Okay.
They're more concerned with the migratory wildlife.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Miscellaneous receipts, you can just see that we spiked it last year when we balanced the budget with the money, the 132,000 from the excess overlay, which was the money that the debt that OC paid off. So as far as we were concerned, it was a one-time expense. And we really hope OC heard us and does not try to stash that money in stabilization. The budget busters for this year. The pension cost increase about 50,000. Health insurance, right now, it looks like it, if we're lucky, it's 200,000. P&C insurance is close to 40,000. And then you look at the preliminary budgets we've got from Old Colony and the school department, and that increase is $1.5 million. That can't stand. When you take that increase and the insurance increase away from our revenue, we're left with $11,331,084. And just back of the envelope of all the budgets we've got in from the departments, on the town side, the expenses are $12,208,000. So we're short about $1 million there after I've pulled the rabbits out of my hat. So schools have to cut and we have to cut.
Just like last year, same
Yep.
same scenario.
I just don't understand with the schools. Last year, they asked for $1.3 million increase in their budget, and I think we knocked it down to, it was around $800,000. This year, they're asking for 1.1 million more above that, and they've had decreasing enrollment in their schools for the last 5 years.
As I said, that was a preliminary budget. I don't think, for as far as the Acushnet school is concerned, because we've been working with them, I don't think we're gonna be anywhere close to that. My worry is Old Colony.
Well, I know when I was talking with Old Colony at their meeting, they understand they need to sharpen their pencil, but when they did go through the numbers, when they backed out the, if we back out, because they cover their pensions, their health insurance and everything else is in their budget, where in our school system, it's in the town budget. When they backed that out, their increase was 2.7% over last year, and all of that was contractual. In fact, they had already let go one teacher at that point to try and cut down their numbers for it. So while the number is big, okay, our enrollment there is big as well, and we're the number one for the enrollment, and they're actually asking per student a 2.7 increase.
They had a chance to, their health insurance increased by 19%.
Yeah.
They had a chance. We offered to work with them and introduce them to our health insurance people. And we're hoping for single digits, but I'll take 12, looking at what everybody else is getting. And to work with them, our stop loss is a lot better. A number of things are better. They didn't want to hear it.
No? Shame on them on that.
And I still want to make sure the 132,000, they don't sock it away in D&E or some stabilization account.
I still can't understand how the school department, knowing and having the meetings with us, knowing the situation that the town is in, and the hard conversations we've had with them the past 2 years, they can actually come up with an increase of $1.1 million.
That was a preliminary budget. They have said it was a preliminary budget. They haven't set their budget yet. All of these figures are figures that
They're all gonna be
Right.
the
recapped.
first
Have they had any-
round.
have they
And
had
I
any
understand
revision?
that. My frustration is just like last year. We went from 400,000 increase the year before to 1.3 million. So when we knocked it down to 800,000, oh, wow, we're doing you a favor. You're not doing us a favor. 1.1, what are they gonna think looks good this year? 700,000?
I think
We
it was
can't
less
afford
than-
it.
It was less than 800,000, wasn't it?
It
Last
probably was, but it wasn't much less if that was the case.
I think the final was 330,000.
Yeah, it was much less than that.
All right, then I'll stand corrected on it, but let's hope that that does follows the same thing with this year. I know we've got contractual obligations that have to be met for it, but we've got it decreasing student enrollment over the last 5 years, and they continue to ask for more and more money because it's for the students. Well,
One of the problems all the way across education is from the state level.
mhm.
The state wants to, for over 200 school districts, they're getting the minimum because the state wants to narrow that gap between the required school spending and what people are spending to the point that the state isn't helping us.
Yeah, and I
They-
understand that. It's on all the school systems for it, and that's one of the things we touched on last week with the state reps that were in here. The state's just passing their taxes on to the towns and making the towns look like a bad person, but
Well, when you look at it, we're around 3% increase with our tax levy. We're around 5% increase with our receipts. That's keeping pace with inflation. We're 0.5% to 1.5%, depending on the year, with our state aid. Nowhere near what they need to do to keep pace with
no,
inflation.
no. Take that 5 billion out of the budget for mass save and see what our state aid would be with that.
Well, that's, The
So-
Chapter 70 formula is broken.
Yeah.
It doesn't work,
The
especially for
Chapter
a
70 is
town
broken.
like ours.
The Mass School Building Assistance is broken. We brought it up. How can a town like Lawrence get 90% plus reimbursement from school building assistance and Old Colony Votech get 50 to 55%?
I'm sorry,
It
Mr.
it
Chairman.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Mr. Donovan, the previous superintendent, complaining of the same issue, and it doesn't seem to get addressed by the state
Well,
Board of Education.
there's a difference between equity and fairness, and there's no fairness here.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Sorry about that. Took us off on a tangent.
You trying to be me?
No, I made sense.
Whoa, shots fired.
Love you, Eric.
Uh-huh.
I was talking to
So
the
is that it, Mr. Kelly, with the budget?
That was
update?
just,
Okay.
you know, I beat the drum of we're in financial trouble and we have to
Well,
pinch every penny.
it's good to put it out there every week, because not everybody watches these things every week, and the more we can educate the public, I think the better it is, you know?
So what's the total budget shortfall right now?
about 920,000.
A million-ish.
I thought you said 1.5 before, so it's a million? Okay.
Yeah, well, it's 1.5 if you look at it one way, and if you look at it as far as me finding 50,000 here or 20,000 there, I can get it down to about $1 million right now.
So a million before any school revisions from that, 6.5%.
And any other thing.
Right.
He's gonna
Get
do it.
these guys out.
So probably half on the town side
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
No, town budgets, the departments were told level funded budgets.
Say that every year to them.
Other than collective bargaining raises. And then we'll look at how we pay for the collective bargaining raises by cutting the rest of their budgets.
It's all bare bones stuff. When you,
Right, but if there's $1 million hole, it's gonna be coming from,
Once we, last year, we did 7 iterations of the budget as we kept cutting. And
I think
Eventually
the
we
school
got there.
ended up revising theirs, I wanna say like 4 times
Mm.
by the time they got down to their final budget. So, it's,
And we found one-time money, probably 150 to 200,000 that we will not be able to find this year. I've been trying to avoid layoffs since I got here. This year, I'm not sure.
alright, so Mr. Kelly, we're gonna do, I know you said you're gonna do animal control, but we'll do that at the end.
All right.
So the ladies can go first. So we're gonna have Lauren Golda, our Director of Council on Aging, present her budget first. Hi, Lauren. Okay. Explain.
All right.
Yeah.
So there were no significant
Right.
changes. Of course, director salary, that was with the 2% contract increase. We did hire 2 new outreach coordinators. They are splitting the part-time position. We found 2 very qualified candidates. However, they were only able to give me 8 hours each. So we did cut the position from 18 hours to 16 hours, and they're each working 8 hours a week. So there was a little bit of a savings in that aspect. And then my kind of only one request was to increase the building and grounds by an additional 3,000, so that bring it to 6,000, and that's just with the current condition of the building. I know that you are all very well aware of the few reserve fund transfers that we've had to do. There was one last year with all the plumbing issues and the septic, and then most recently with the heating unit. So I just feel as though having a little bit of a little nest egg would, would help in that way. Hopefully I don't have to come to you and beg for more money, but but those are kind of my only significant things that stood out.
Do you anticipate like any issues with the building now that may come up at some point?
I think the heating unit will, be an ongoing issue. I know it's come up in the past that there were quotes done to replace all of the units. I can't speak as to, what had happened at that point. The most recent one that we did have replaced, I did ask the techs while they were out if they saw that happening again. They said that while they were up in the attic, they could kind of hear which ones were already ticking and were sounding
It's
troublesome.
5 units, right? And
I believe
we
so,
did
yeah.
one,
Yep.
How much should we spend on that
Nine.
recent one?
like
Yeah.
9.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9.5.
Yeah.
And that would be a capital item
To do the
I think
rest.
that was that one.
to do
yeah.
as many as we can.
So they couldn't give me a definite, like this one's gonna go, or when it'll happen. It could be another year from now, who knows? But just with everything else.
What is that servicing? The new unit, what part of the building?
It's the large function room.
The big room?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. So there's 2 thermostats in there, so
Yeah.
there's 1 unit for each side of the room.
Yep.
So is that increase not reflected in this?
No, that would be
capital will
in
be
the capital
separate.
budget.
Yeah.
That would be in the article.
To increase her line item?
No,
No.
for free, take it out of free cash.
I thought she was asking to double her.
Oh, it's in the RMN.
The building and grounds.
Yep.
So you're asking for what? Your building and ground to go from 3 to 6?
Yes.
Okay, that's not reflected.
No, I've got it at 3.
Okay.
So the total of what we have here, 138, 935, we're gonna add 3,000 to that. Right?
Unless,
I do not think the final
No, it's
budget
built in.
will reflect that.
Okay.
I don't
Oh.
think the selectmen will.
As you
so what you're saying is
things
you'll
are
deal with
really
those
tight,
issues
so,
with capital?
I mean, we'd like to be able to do that, but we might not be able to.
That was
If
just on my
it's a-
wish list, so that's okay.
If it's a repair issue, that's another issue, and we'll talk, the board, as I said, the board hasn't taken up any of the budgets
Mhm.
yet.
Yeah, so the total of 138, 935 basically reflects just contractual
Yeah.
increases for the most
Mhm.
part.
Yep.
So that's probably realistic at this point, more than likely.
Okay.
Well, if we have any questions, we'll reach out.
Okay.
Good.
Otherwise, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
And we've, as you know, in the past, we took the custodial help out of here and centralized it all in town buildings. And we're probably going to be increasing the repair and maintenance line in the town buildings so that we can take care of all of the buildings if we have something like that, rather than just do it individually, building to building.
Okay. All right, next up to that.
Do it
is our,
in-house too.
Library
so we
Director,
don't have
Elizabeth
to do
Patello.
prevailing wage.
Just gonna hand out something. Oh,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And here you go.
Another one.
Another one. Add to your collection. You probably have a book by the time you leave. All right. So before we jump into the budget, I just want to highlight some fun statistics about your public library. Last year, we roughly had 27,000 visitors through our doors. Currently, we have about 500 library card holders. And then last year, we checked out both physical and online items, so that includes ebooks, e-audiobooks, magazines, and so forth. We had about 84,000 of those items. I'm not going to go through all that because...
Just a
Yes.
quick question on it. I mean, it's great to have the numbers,
Yeah.
but where does that stand compared to the previous
I was
year?
just gonna ask that.
I mean, have we seen growth in the use of the library? Has it been stagnant?
I don't have those numbers with me, but the active and electronic active card holders have gone up, and the electronic content, so borrowing ebooks, audiobooks, has skyrocketed. So we have to focus our shift towards physical materials through e-resources, but our programming numbers have gone up. So people are coming in for children's programs, adult programs, our summer concert series is ever popular, but I don't have that number in front of me right
So
now.
it's good to just know that more people are actually using the resources the town's providing, so that's awesome. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. So before we jump into the FY26 budget, I would like to talk about the minimum standards that public libraries have to adhere to in order to receive state aid and to remain certified a public library. So I'm not going to go through every single item on this sheet, but in order to remain eligible for state aid, we must be open to all residents of the Commonwealth, must be open a minimum of 40 hours and 5 days per week. This is a big one. We must spend 16% of our appropriation must be spent on library material. So that does include physical items and e-resources. And then most importantly, we must meet MAR, which is the average of the past 3 years of the budget with a 2.5 increase, and that's how we receive our MAR. So you see the formulation at the bottom of the sheet. That is the magic number that we need for this year in order to be to receive state aid and to remain a certified library. If we become decertified, it would be absolutely devastating to our patrons. They would lose borrowing privileges at other libraries, and as you know, we are part of the sales network, which is libraries ranging all the way from Seekonk to Wareham, all the way up to Foxborough. And because we're a small library, we do rely on borrowing from other libraries, and they do also lend from us too. So let's get to the numbers. So it's pretty much level funded. The salaries are contractual. The techs currently are in negotiations. Longevity remains the same, so that number is just reflecting the contractual increases. And then for library expenses, everything has remained the same except telephone, which has gone up a little bit because we do have a fax line that does get used quite frequently, and our materials went up $1,000 from last year. And you can see the final number, and below that is the MAR as a reminder of what we need to be at or above. Any questions?
Real quickly, faxing, is that something that is strictly for the office, or
That is public. We are.
do you charge for that? Do
We
you charge
do.
for fax?
We do charge for fax. You'd be surprised how many calls we receive. Do you have a fax machine? And it's for public use. We send the fax. We give them a cover letter. They fill it out, and then we, charge them for depending if it's local or long distance.
Okay, and so that money goes into this account, is that correct? Whatever you charge for the fax, you say you charge?
That money goes into the library gift fund.
Okay.
Or, wait a minute, it's either the library gift or the revolving fund,
Yeah,
one of those
One-
two. I can get the answer for you.
that's fine. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep.
Under library expenses,
Yes.
do you typically expend the full amount?
So are you referring to sales expenses?
Yes.
So sales expenses is a contractual, that is our agreement to be part of the sales network. So that is the number I receive from the sales network every fiscal year, or beginning of the, or end of the fiscal year. So that is our fee to remain in the network.
How about other supplies?
Other
purchased?
supplies is what we use to purchase materials, so books, physical or e-resources. And then we have to spend 16% of our budget on materials. So that is not 16% of our total budget, so I have to use state aid to meet the 16%. So that's why it's important that we remain above MAR, so that way we can get state aid and remain certified also.
How much state aid do we typically get for the library?
It depends. This year we're getting 33,000.
As compared to,
It has increased every year.
it has?
Yes,
Okay.
and I think it maybe 27, 28 last year. And if we didn't have state aid, if we were decertified, we would probably cease to exist because we're so
It's
small.
gone from 24,000 and change in 22 up to 33. This year, 555, 33,555. However, we cannot include that in our formula for revenue. We have to put it in and then back it out.
Yeah. But the state aid we're getting does cover essentially, the cost of the increase, most of it anyway, in the budget. Just looking at it from that perspective.
It's a $1,000 increase, we're getting a couple $1,000 of state aid extra.
We, Elizabeth and I have done this budget 4 times already this year. Not over the years, just this year alone. And the one figure we're all guessing on is the energy figure.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's heavy by 1,000 or 2,000 or what, but if we're looking at about 10,000 this year, and then a 25 to 40% increase, depending. Because you've got a building there that has substantial energy needs compared to some of our other buildings.
It's heated with oil, correct?
It's not.
No.
It's electric unit still.
Oh, okay.
Multi-use
Flat up on the
ones.
ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least
It was.
refrigerator.
The oil tanks are still downstairs.
Yeah, I think it was when it was the community center, it was on.
Whereas, a lot of our buildings shut down in the evening. She's open,
Yes.
and
They
that's
do.
what-
As well.
They do shut off at 7:30, so we're open till 7:30, and they shut up at 7:30. We're in the building till 7:45, Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, they shut off at 5, because we close at 5. We're open on Saturday, 9:30 to 2:30, so we're open a lot more than other town buildings.
Sure.
Hopefully the residents throughout the Commonwealth, continue to put pressure on our utility companies to lower their rates. And
From your lips to God's ears.
Public Utility Commission.
yeah, the DPU,
That should be an elected position.
Some states it is.
It should be, so they don't align with the governor, they align with the constituents.
No, I think we beat that last week pretty good, so I think we have to go down that road again. Does anybody else have any questions for Elizabeth?
No.
Thank you.
Elizabeth,
Thank
thanks for
you.
coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
We love the library.
Absolutely.
Okay, next is our town planner, Victoria Alfaro.
All right.
Hi, Victoria.
Alright, hi.
Hey.
Hi. So for the record, Victoria Alfaro, town planner. So the planning board request, is to remain level funded. None of our expense lines, line items are increasing. The only things that have been moved around are the salary line items. We are proposing to not fund the researcher line item and to kind of disperse that into the town planner salary and the clerical salary as well. I will note that my position, of course, is a little different than the other department heads, so my contract with Mattapoisett has not been discussed for this year, so that is a placeholder number. So if there are any questions?
How's any updates like on projects with our master plan or?
Oh yes, I was not prepared to.
Well,
I would have had like.
Well, it's okay. I mean, if you just
Come
yeah.
back tomorrow.
Yeah, of course. So with our master plan, so through that process, we're also doing what's called a water resource management plan, which is about our water quality and our water infrastructure. And then we're also doing an update to our open space and recreation plan as well. So we have sort of 3 projects encompassed in that process. We have started meeting for the master plan. We have meetings once a month. Peter is on that committee as well. And we also have been doing outreach events for that. We have sessions at the library planned, the COA. We're meeting with the PTO at Acushnet Elementary next week. We're in the public engagement phase, right? So we're getting a lot of feedback. We have our survey release, which so far has received over 200 responses, which is really good. And that will remain open until the end of June. And also in June, that's when we'll sort of have the draft strategies and action items and where the committee will review those, and also we'll have some public engagement in the summer as well. And we should wrap that up and the other planning items by the end of this year.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Beyond that, Victoria has been dealing with the one-stop grant
I was just going to.
Yeah.
portal in the state and has explored a number of further options for us to do some things in the future.
So any grants you have in the pipeline that you'd like to highlight, or?
Yeah, of course. So just alluding to what Mr. Kelly is talking about, one of the things that we have in mind, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the TIP project for South Main Street.
Yep.
Okay, so I had heard from Dan from DPW back at our master plan kickoff meeting that our existing infrastructure, water and sewer infrastructure under the roadway may need to be replaced. And then also based off of our comprehensive wastewater management plan done in 2020, there's also a plan to expand that sewer along South Main Street down towards the Fairhaven line. So, before we put this nice new road on, it really would be great to have that infrastructure all taken care of. So that is one of the...
Through the state, right?
Correct, yes, funding through the state, absolutely, yep. So I will be submitting an expression of interest for that, and that's, what that is you'll submit to the program, and they'll kind of give you feedback which program's right for you and any helpful tips for your application, and then we'll go from there. We did meet with Mr. Kelly and I met with Director Angovia of Rural Affairs and both of our state reps, Mark Sylvia and Rep Steve Ouellette, last week, and they did mention it would be good for Acushnet to apply for the one-stop for that project.
Victoria, if the expansion of the town water and sewer going south down Main Street, how many residences would have the opportunity to tie into it? Do we know offhand or rough?
I don't know offhand. That's something that's probably in the comprehensive wastewater management plan. So I can get that number.
I'm just curious. I mean, when we were talking about nitrogen recovery last year and what the state wanted to put on for guidelines for it, obviously the more houses we can get off septic onto town sewer would help the town.
Yeah.
We've also been approached by Fairhaven because they have a large chunk of flow capacity in their new, unassigned, in their new sewer treatment plant. And I think Mattapoisett has 18%.
I'm not sure how much they have.
And they're up there, but there's a chunk, I don't know if it's 20%, whatever, they're looking to see if there's a collaboration. But that will be probably once they get someone to talk to who's not interim down there.
Understood.
I have a question on the budget. The requested increase on, I understand the bottom line's the same, but the requested increase for clerical salaries is like 30%. What is that? Is that additional hours or?
Yeah, so right now the position is budgeted for 19 and a half.
Which one is?
So salaries clerical last fiscal was 21,150, and the request was 28,750, which you revised to 22.
Yeah, that was because they folded in the researcher money into that.
Yeah, but my question is that position filled? Like, would that be a 30%? It's not filled.
No, and it wouldn't go to that level, it'll go to the town administrator's level.
Okay, I'm just going off what she requested or the department did.
Department's gonna request.
Okay. So that position's not currently filled?
No,
The
but
researcher.
I believe the job
No,
has
the
been
clerical
posted.
salary.
That, actually, it isn't filled because the person just resigned.
Okay.
But there was someone there until recently. And if someone would like to apply for the part-time clerical position in the planning board and is listening out there, please send your resume in.
www.
Any other questions for Victoria? Victoria, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
See you
Thank
tomorrow.
you, and welcome aboard.
Tomorrow. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Zach. I'll wait till she- Okay, next up to bat is our Board of Health. We've got Joe Correa, our health agent, and Dave Vixen, our chair of the Board of Health.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening,
Good
gentlemen.
evening.
It's just the same, different format,
Okay.
so it all goes in the same book.
Is there multiple here?
One's for Dave, one's for you.
How you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing good, how are you? Miss you.
Okay. So, straight up, besides contractual things, our contractual salaries, everything has been level funded. The things that we can talk about most is maybe our nurses for the communicable diseases there, that's $13,000. We expect that to stay the same in the upcoming year. That's a contract position that we pay to them. The other $13,000 that we have is in the event that we need that for medical expenses, which is starting to get used more and more because of the shared service arrangement that we have with Fairhaven and New Bedford. We actually have a nurse that's paid for through a grant, which now is, probably pretty scary as we go forward. There's a lot of money that's been put into the health departments, the local health departments over the past 5 years because of what happened with COVID and the state realizing that we just did not have the capacity to do what we needed to do. So they've gone out of their way to retrain, and I probably talked a little bit about this last year, but retrain the entire, health agents, sanitarians that are now throughout the entire Commonwealth. They've set up training hubs where they're literally forcing us, at least the long-timers that have been here, to go back to college. We're getting retrained in housing, retrained in food, retrained in all of the Title V stuff, from all online courses to in classroom schools to actually going out and doing inspections with our trainers. So I have to manage that. But that same money that has been granted to us also has allowed us to start sharing services. So we picked up a nurse. We actually picked up a part-time nurse this year. And now we're working on trying to figure out what we can do to provide more services to the town with those nurses and how to use them. It's pretty... Again, we've gone through this for decades where, the money ebbs and flows. We have to, expand our what we can do and then bring it back, retract it back. And if we go back to what the Board of Health did decades ago, where we actually had those nurses and we had those doctors and we had the staff to be able to do the things that now here we are being almost forced to do again because of the money and the laws that have changed that have actually started to put the pressure on retraining all of the Board of Health and giving the Board of Health, the local Board of Health, this money in order to step up to the plate to do this different stuff. It's starting to look a lot more like it did 30, 40, 50 years ago. So if that money continues to funnel into us, we might have a different looking Board of Health in the future. But as you guys are well aware of, it's grant money, so that could go away quick. It's supposed to be a 30-year grant, and it's supposed to, supplement all of the communities because they've kind of forced us to regionalize a little bit, which is great because one of the things that we're working on, and again, we're dealing with roughly 140,000 people now because now we're taking the shared service arrangements, but we're looking at the fact that we have the city of New Bedford, we have Fairhaven, the population of Fairhaven and Acushnet, and we're trying to figure out how to shuffle all those people around and use them. But the nice thing, if it works out, as it works out, I should say, is that New Bedford, because of the large population, has a lot of resources that we as a small town, there's no way that we could.
Know.
Right, I mean, so one of the big things that we push for, is to be able to use those services more and more, and it's slowly taking shape. Where we're going to get that. We're going to get more out of that. So, I mean, we continue to move forward. That extra to jump back around to that $13,000, those different services that we can bring to the town, which this year we did the flu clinics, right? Last year we did the flu clinics. We literally got ran out of the flu clinic business by the state, and now they're kind of pressuring us to go back into it. We couldn't buy the vaccine at the time. We did not have the capacity to do that. We didn't have the capacity to bill. New Bedford does. I mean, New Bedford has some of that capacity. So we're trying to figure out how to make that all work, because again, now when we look at billing insurances and how it works with Acushnet versus Fairhaven versus New Bedford and how we're going to share all that, we're trying to figure that out through them too, which they have their own process. You know, New Bedford has their own process that we kind of have to work through. But hopefully some of this $13,000 that we're using now, we used about $5,000 of it this year to do vaccines, to buy the vaccine, and to also do some in-home vaccines for the flu, which is something that we haven't been able to ever do. So we were able to get some of those homebound people. Now with the addition of the other nurse, we're hoping to do a little bit more as we go forward. But
You'd be working with that with like the COA and stuff to try to.
oh, we absolutely work with the COA right now. We actually have a two-pronged approach, really, because we push on our contracted nurses through the community nurses of Fairhaven. We've asked them to actually spend some time over at the Council on Aging. They do blood pressure checks. But we also do the same thing with our shared nurses. We have them work with Lauren for whatever programs that we need, so that we're always trying to have somebody around. We're looking forward, like we did last year also, we did the car seat program, which, you know, we're trying to get that to happen, and shouldn't say trying to get that to happen, we're actually making it happen. But what we're trying to do is get the communities, Fairhaven and Acushnet and New Bedford, to really connect with what we're doing. You know, Acushnet tends to be Acushnet, and Fairhaven tends to be Acushnet, and we live in our own little lanes. In New Bedford, you know, everybody goes to New Bedford, you know, but we want, and this is our shared service arrangement, it's called SEMA, and that's the Southeastern Massachusetts Association, which is us, which is the shared service, which we're starting to promote an awful lot of, you know, health topics through Facebook. We share it from time to time on our Facebook pages if we can. We share it on our website, whatever we're trying to do. And I know right now we're all working together to try to get more and more programs right now about nursing moms. We're working on that right now, about how we can get the nurses, or how the nurses are going to try to either run some sort of class or be able to go directly to some of their homes if they reach out for this. And again, they're doing great. They're working as hard as they can to try to bring as much to the community as they can. Again, we're tiny. You know, New Bedford do have more capacity over there, so they're trying to work it through the New Bedford and then pull it back to us and then to Fairhaven. So that's
Any like basic helpful courses on like nutrition, you know, eating well, just to try and educate the public on how to actually just read a food label.
Sure.
And to be able to pick out some of this garbage that's in a lot of products that are allowed to be sold in our, you know, in our grocery stores now. You know, like high fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated oils, seed oils. All that stuff is bad for you. But, you know, a lot of people don't know that. So I think that would be good to educate the public, get them healthier. You know, look at the amount of sodium in a product. That's just because so much money is spent on healthcare to take care of hypertension, cholesterol issues, and diabetes. Those are the big three. And it's astronomical how much is spent on that. And if people just understood, look, if I take a little bit better care of myself, and number one, quit smoking cigarettes, and then, you know, have a good healthy diet and get a little exercise. You know, it's easier said than done, but it's
Sadly, there's no money in healthy people.
You gotta coach people. People need a coach sometimes, where you just kind of look. You gotta get a system for yourself.
Yep.
But if we don't have services like that available, you know, it's just sometimes people just need that extra push and motivation to get themselves healthy. The other question I had was, what kind of services besides vaccinations are we billing for?
nothing right now. It's the vaccinations.
So just the vaccinations?
That's it, yeah. We're trying to work on these programs that, just such as you say, we did do, just to your point before I get to that, is we did run a diabetes program that actually was in coordination with the Y, and they were actually able to give out, and that was through our nurses, and we did it over at the Council on Aging, and it actually was well received. I think there was about 50 people that actually signed up for it, and that was, again, hardcore. That was, you had to go there, you had to be there once a week. The nurses did a great job on that, and then they were able to actually get Y memberships. And that actually turned out to be pretty good, because sometimes we do this and you know, Acushnet residents don't jump on board, but they really did this time.
That's a good thing.
So that was, yeah, that really, we really pushed that. And to your point again about the healthy eating, we are working on that. That is something that is a topic that we discuss on a regular basis that we're trying to push out there. I think that's an excellent
great to hear.
Yes.
I actually had a thing on talk radio yesterday where they were trying to say that if you ate butter, you were more likely to have a chance of stroke, and they were pushing the fact that seed oils were healthier for you in regards to strokes.
When it comes to like TV and stuff like that, they'll change what they say 1 week later after they've said it. I mean, it's just, it happens over and over again. It's,
You blew my mind to hear it.
yeah, no, I mean, stuff like hydrogenated oils, margarine is worse than regular butter.
Yep.
That's a known fact. I don't know why they would come out with that, but yeah, I mean, unless you're eating a whole stick of butter every day, yeah. I mean, but nobody's going to do that. I don't think. I hope not. But anyway, does anybody else have any questions?
I just had a quick question. It just came out. I saw it on Facebook today. There's talk about the Greater New Bedford Health getting shut down. Is that by any chance impacting you guys as well? In New Bedford?
Yeah, I don't know.
The funding from Trump might be shutting it down or something. There was a thing, Bob Unger.
Yeah, so I haven't heard any of that, you know, in our community.
Okay.
You know, I mean, of course, we're sensitive to.
Trying to put some credence to what I saw, so.
Yeah,
okay.
no, I have not heard anything.
Okay.
I mean, we talk about this when we meet every couple of weeks,
Yep.
about concerns about all of that, but I mean, nothing's touched us yet, or nothing has touched them that I know of, so
Yep, okay. Thank you.
we're hoping.
I think there's probably a lot of misinformation about
Yeah,
some of that
that's-
stuff anyway.
well,
That's floating around.
If Trump is stopping money coming out, he's stopping money going directly to a thing and putting it on the state. If the state wants to spend their billions elsewhere, then they can't be blaming Trump for it.
No.
Well, I think we covered a lot of the governor's stuff last week. So,
You think?
I didn't bring it up. That was Eric.
one other thing, Joe, before you leave, any more buzz about? Remember last year, the Title V issue with the nitrogen recovery systems? Anything new coming up with that we should be aware of?
I think that if there's anything that I could say, I would say just you need to be aware of it, because they didn't get it
It's not
as
gone
direct.
away. It's not
Right.
gone away completely.
It's not.
They're gonna find a way.
They're going to find a way.
Yeah, I had a feeling it's.
They
it's gonna
came
be
back at us
surfaced some
again.
point.
You know, they know Acushnet River, the state. Okay, the state knows and understands to their capacity the Acushnet River, and they have numbers on it and about. And again, it goes to the septic systems and how much nitrogen is pumping out of these septic systems. But I think we talked about this between the board and myself, and last year we kind of really pushed back, and a lot of people pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
You need to solve New Bedford's problem
Yeah.
before you start trying to solve our problems, because, you know, we've been using the ground to go to the bathroom for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Longer than we've been pumping sewage out into the bay in regards from sewage treatment plant, which, you know, the sewage treatment plant within itself doesn't create the problem, but the overflows
The
do.
combined.
Right.
You know, because they can't manage when it rains and it's too much. So, you know, it's coming. It's going to come in some sort of capacity, but I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a concern because, look, our residents are
Yeah, there's no way.
a lot of people are just financially strapped.
There's
and
no
hit
way
with
this
enough
board's
things.
going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
I have this, this is only my only gut feeling that Mattapoisett and Marion are going to be targeted next. Wareham already had something like that instituted. I don't know, it's not town-wide, it's only within 500 feet of a wetland resource area, that type of thing. So I think they might do it in sections, I think, because they can't lump us in with Marion, Mattapoisett. They have issues with our Coot Cove sewer treatment plant, and Marion, not the greatest, needs massive upgrades. We're bordering the river, so I think that's our friend. And same with Fairhaven, you know, we're on the other side of what New Bedford has issues. So my gut feeling thing, I think they're gonna do they come over the bridge, go to the first two communities that maybe can't afford it and don't have as much pushback as we do.
Yeah.
But we will push back hard. I don't,
Yeah, because
No
they
way
would
I
have
would
to
go for that.
designate us as part of like, what is it, the watershed, if
for our watershed, we're a part of the river
Yeah,
and no other, whereas like Mattapoisett has multiple watersheds
yeah.
they need watershed permits for.
Mhm.
Kind of puts them in a tough spot.
Yeah.
You know? Same with Marion. You know?
Yeah.
Certainly Wayne too.
Good to know.
I do have one question. Just noticed on the sanitarian line, there's a $30,000 increase. Am I reading that
Where?
right? So,
Look the top, look at the top.
You're looking at fiscal year to date?
26 requests.
Yeah, you're looking at fiscal year to date.
Yeah, that's,
Fiscal year to date versus the next fiscal year.
You gotta go budget.
Oh,
for
so
the
correct,
25.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
If anything, we've lost
Right.
the assistant health agent
Yep.
and the second clerk. So we've actually downsized our department in some respects.
Yeah, so their increases are just contractual.
Right.
Okay.
was excited there for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I read that wrong, it's my bad, I'm sorry.
And all that training that you guys have to go through, that's covered by the state?
You know, sadly enough, no. I mean, yes, the training itself is covered by the state, but unfortunately, the individual towns are paying us to do this, which in my opinion, I don't like at all, because it takes my time away from the town
Mhm.
to force me to do something that I've already done. I've been doing this for 13 years, and I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but what they're trying to do is make everybody exactly the same baseline across the entire state. One of the things that concerns me, you know, as a resident too, is they're creating a very, very, very specialized workforce that is going to be in the future the only people that you can hire to do the Board of Health job.
With that specialty comes increased salaries. Absolutely.
You know, there are laws that have been created. There's a SAFE, S-A-P-H-E 2.0 that literally describes what this is and how it's going to work and how it's been working. So yes, as the town goes forward, that's when I started with my other, we're literally digressing back to what we used to be from a Board of Health standpoint, which is going to cost us money. And I mean, the grants only come to get us started, but this is so much money that they put in, and they're forcing everybody to get to the knowledge point that they are, that you're looking at, you know, again, it's just something that you need to consider as a town as you go forward, that it's going to be great for local public health. I mean, for the residents and the amount of services we hope that they'll be able to get and the level of services that they'll be getting out of the Board of Health. But, I mean, it's
With a price.
going to come with a price. Not now. You don't have to worry about it this year, and probably not next year, but it's coming.
It just sounds like a lot
It
to have to go through when, you know, you don't know what's the percentage of people that are gonna actually utilize it, because most people are gonna use their own doctor for all that kind of stuff, right? So are they making you guys go through all this, and, you know, this highly regulated thing, and just to make, it just seems like it's making things more difficult for you guys.
It puts a lot of pressure.
They're also trying to regionalize all over the place
Yeah.
and take it out of local control.
Yeah, it's absolutely the truth. I mean,
Anybody else have any other questions?
Nope.
Gentlemen, thank you for coming in tonight. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys very much.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you guys.
Have a good night.
Yep, thanks, you too.
You guys are doing a great job, keep it up.
We try and do our best.
Have you got your tax bill?
We got nothing to do with the taxes. Come on, we don't do anything with the taxes. Come on, man. All right.
Animal control.
Yeah, well, Mr. Kelly's gonna take care of animal control, since Rebecca couldn't be here.
Where did I put that? All right. Salary line, you have the contractual increase. We've added an overtime line of 1,000 because of the call-outs under the Fair Labor Standards Act. She should be compensated for that. So, rather than have the town get sanctioned by the state or the feds, we'll take care of that now. And clothing allowance, you can see it's the same. Year-to-date hasn't been spent, it's due to be spent at the end of the fiscal year. Other than that, it's
Just a,
fairly similar,
just a boarding increase.
For the board
Yep.
services.
and that's something we have to eat.
Mm-hmm.
We're still using Fayetteville.
I think so.
There, I thought we were using Lakeville.
She does, it depends. Depends on the situation.
Well, just to, give Rebecca a shout out, she does a great job for our town. She puts a lot of good informational things out on social media relative to, taking care of your cats and dogs, and also just wildlife in general, things to look out for. So she really does try and educate the public as best as possible. I think she does an outstanding job.
Following up
Mm-hmm.
what Joe said and my discussions with Becky and what you've seen in other departments.
Bless you.
Bless you. The filling of a lot of these positions that takes specific, particular training is getting to be very difficult. And some of it might be the salary level, but in reality, a vast majority of it is because there aren't people going into the careers. And it's getting more and more difficult to fill these positions. And so you're very lucky. I know she's filling in for various towns around here all the time, and a number of those people are telling her that this is their last year or their last 2 years, and they're going to be done, and they don't know who's going to take their
I
place.
think Rochester is one.
So it's something to put on your radar that you're going to be looking at potentially a lot of sharing of these professional certified positions among the various towns.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the conservation agent works here and in Lakeville. We're contracting with Mattapoisett to share the town planner. There is no way that when you look at the MMA advertisements for vacancies, that they're going to be able to fill all those positions on health agent, conservation agent, planner, ACO. There just aren't enough people going into those careers. Also, treasurer collector, town accountant, you know, across the board.
Yeah, it's gonna be an issue. Oh, it is now. It is now
Yeah.
for us, you know?
But, I mean, we're lucky in that not only is it an issue for us, but it's an issue for other towns. And so we can look at the solution of sharing the folks.
Just collaborate.
Yeah.
And,
Well, it's worse for this town because the salaries across the board are low. They really are. I mean,
Well, it's also geographically.
yeah,
We've got that, we're got a less, we can't compete with
495.
inside 495.
well, and I think you have to base it.
But the people that we might be able to collaborate with are the other side of the Quabbin Reservoir.
But I think
Which, so geographically, the areas that could most benefit from the collaboration are too far apart.
something
can't
that
have
factors
someone
into
driving
that is
between the
is
two
size-
areas.
The size of our population is not the same as Fairhaven. So we can't pay somebody what Fairhaven probably can. So we're always in that position. I mean, if we're gonna go down that road and try and match what other towns that are, you know, have a higher per capita income or just a bigger population, I don't know how we stay in business without asking residents for an override all the time, which I never want to do. No, I mean, it's ridiculous already. I mean, overrides or debt exclusions, that's one thing. But not an override to fund an operational budget, no way.
Other than some of the now very wealthy towns on the coast, most of the other towns in Bristol County and Plymouth, the salary ranges aren't that different. You can't find the people with the certifications. Young people are not going into these jobs. That's the
They might not
problem.
be, you know, kids in high school or college, they might not be thinking of, you know, municipal government because they don't know enough about it.
I think a lot of it is just why work when, you know, you've got you know, benefits for staying home, for doing, you know, online stuff and doing, you know, from the old administration. I think, you know, the current administration is gonna make people go back to work, and there's a lot of kicking and screaming about it, but I think once people realize that they're not gonna be able to sit home and get entitlements, that they're gonna have to go to work, that they're gonna be looking for these that are, you know, long-term jobs. So we'll just see how it plays out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
well,
mean-
you can also see when we were talking about the coastal communities and how their student population is going down. Well, that's also because we're a very graying population. Massachusetts, well, this area and Massachusetts is becoming a older community. The younger people are not staying here.
They can't afford it.
Well, then the other issue is, you know, Massachusetts, we're the second most expensive state in the country to raise children. So for the working middle class, these people probably think of the financial impact of how much it's gonna cost to raise kids. So I can guarantee you that most people in the middle class are probably having less children than maybe if you're way up there above the millionaire status, or you're below, because you're getting a lot of subsidies to help support these kids.
Well, Sue tells us the millionaires are
Well,
moving out.
yeah, so it's gonna be more of the other. That's, you know, I mean, I don't know,
It's not sustainable.
it is not sustainable. You know, if nobody ever tackles pension reform in the state, like we brought up last week, that's another big elephant in the room that nobody wants to address, and it doesn't work. You know, like the point Kevin made last week. You know, you have somebody, you know, taking home $80,000 a year from a pension, and they're into it for 20 years. I mean, that's $1.6 million, and nobody in the private sector is going to rival that 80 grand a year. Even your top earners will get like half of that. So the people in the private sector better invest their money early and wisely, because you're not getting the pensions that people get in state and federal government.
Well, before you even worry about the pensions, worry about the OPEB.
Exactly.
Because if you've got health insurance going up 15 to 19% a year,
I mean, what are we
that's
paying?
more untenable.
What are we paying for retirees? Do you have any idea? I know, like in Easton, it's over $1 million, basically $1 million a year or something.
I haven't divided it out.
Yeah, so that's, you know, bringing up OPEB is a good point, because we're funding that as a town, right? So our residents, our taxpayers are funding OPEB.
Yeah, we've got an unfunded liability
But my point
of
is,
millions.
my point is, all the residents are funding it, regardless of whether or not they work in the private sector or for the state or federal government. So somebody in the private sector is, their tax dollars are paying for somebody else's retirement healthcare benefits. I mean, the state is just ridiculous when it comes to that crap. These people that think of this stuff are just, you know, they're saying there's a lot of stupid, smart people. Well, there is, and that's at the higher levels of government that think of all this crap. The actuaries who thought about this pension system the way it is, they didn't factor in longevity, that's for sure, which is good. I mean, people living longer, which is great, but how do you continue to fund it, you know, for a long time? All right, on to the next topic, old business. Anybody have any old business to discuss? New business. You know, one thing I regretted not bringing up last week was the question one, the ballot question.
The auditor.
The audit, the state, given the state auditor the authority to investigate the legislature. I was upset that I forgot about that.
You cut me off.
With that one?
Yeah, that was what I was gonna ask.
Well, because what was it,
9 o'clock.
72% of the people
Voted
in
yes.
this Commonwealth wanted that, and now they're all fighting against it. Why is that,
Because they're hiding some.
right? I mean, it's just, it's laughable that, it's like, be transparent, let us see what you're doing. But they don't want to. I think we're like one of 3 states that doesn't allow that.
Just
think
ask for the number of settlement agreements for harassment.
And then you got,
Don't even ask for the agreements, just ask for how many there are and how much it cost you.
And you got the whole issue with the zoning stuff across the state, you know, mandating that communities have so much,
Well,
high-density housing.
This is something, as you know, I'm leaving, and there's something to put it in your mind. I have yet to see where Acushnet is as far as an MBTA community or an adjacent community. There has been nothing published yet. But if you become either one of those, in your assessments that will come off the top of the cherry sheet money, there will be an assessment for either being an MBTA community or being an adjacent community. And you've got that commuter rail running right down there. Once it starts to roll, then they
2 weeks.
have to
But the problem
determine,
The state's not helping these communities.
Yeah, but this could be, but what I'm saying for you guys to consider, I won't be here.
Right.
It could be $500,000.
Yeah, and they're putting the onus, the financial onus on the different towns and communities to figure out a way to fund this. And then guess what? And if you don't do it, then she'll threaten to take aid, grants away from us for not doing it.
Yeah, but
Oh,
you know,
it's-
it's illegal when Trump does something like that.
Exactly, that's a good
Yep.
point. So when he does it,
How dare he?
the left is like going out of their mind, but when somebody else does it, like Maura Healey, it's like crickets. They're not saying anything. It's fine. And it's like, this is just tired of this crap, you know?
Social engineering at its finest.
We got a set of minutes to approve from March
and-
19th.
And are you gonna define which ones you want, which departments you want at your next meeting?
Oh, yes, we have, yeah, let's approve these minutes and then we'll talk about that. All right, oh, this is actually from, Kathy, these are from April 30th?
Yeah, 2024.
Oh, April 30th, 2024, okay. So in attendance was myself, Pete Benoit, Eric Chu, Kristen Flynn, Eric McGlynn, and Mr. St. Jean.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, these minutes are approved. And I know, Kathy, you're trying to get caught up with everything, and,
Yeah.
because we gotta get a lot of these things posted to the town website as soon as we can. All right, so as far as next week's meeting, so I'm trying to think of who else we could bring in that might be ready to talk about their budgets. Jamie, any insight?
Concom,
So Conservation Commission?
are you gonna wanna bring any of those small ones in that I gave you the list of?
I think we
Oh,
talked about if they were small and level funded, we were
all
just
these
gonna.
ones that are level funded?
If you wanna bring any of
No,
those
I
in?
don't think so. No, I mean, we used to have the town moderator come in, there's no point in doing that. Soil board, no.
Are the selectmen being
Park
close
and,
to?
what's this, Park and Recreation? They're
Yeah.
level funded, yeah, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
if they're level funded, there's no reason to have them come in, really.
Where do the selectmen stand as far as the budgets? They
Haven't started.
haven't even started.
So, I mean, Conservation Commission,
Board of Assessors,
okay, yeah, Board of Assessors,
a treasurer collector,
okay. Town Clerk, maybe?
what's your next meeting?
Next week.
It would be next week,
The 19th?
yeah.
She's back. Yeah, the town
So
clerk would
town
be.
clerk.
Do you want to give
So
her
what's
time
that?
to
How many is
come
that,
back from her
Kathy? 5?
vacation or
Well,
whatever?
we've already gone over her budget, all 14 ways to Sunday.
Okay,
How about the
so she's
assessor?
ready.
He said assessors, I mean, most of the other ones are gonna be the big ones, you know, all the police, fire, EMS,
Golf.
DPW.
DPW, and then schools.
Veterans. There's
We
an
don't usually
increase.
have anybody from veterans come
I
in.
know, there's an increase.
Huh?
There's an increase.
Substantial increase.
Okay, then let's have the veterans agent. come in.
And at some point, we should talk about the HEROES Act. I've got to do it with the selectmen. And
What's that?
it's increases the exemptions,
Property tax?
but it's a local option, but it's not reimbursable from the state.
What's
This
it
was for
called?
veterans.
Veterans,
Property tax, right?
So they get a
Yeah.
reduction in their property tax?
Yep.
By
yeah,
how, what, a percentage?
I think it's $400, but.
Oh, so they get that taken off.
On top of what they have now. I mean, if you're looking at 800, you know, this is
$800 increase, they get for.
800 to a $1,200 increase.
Yeah.
I mean, disabled vets.
Well, again, they don't get taken care of as well as
Nope.
people who come here and cross the border illegally. I've said that 100 times.
Elderly and the vets, that might, that might make the difference if someone's staying in a house.
About our population that's 65 and over, do they qualify for any type of
Yes, they do.
Yes. they
discount
get
on their
some.
property taxes
Yes, they do.
regardless of veteran status?
Why don't we have the assessors, when they come in to talk their budget, they can brief you?
Yeah, because I want to
on
talk
that.
about that.
Yeah, if they
You know,
work.
so our older population is aware of this and they can take advantage of it. 'Cause
We
I'm not sure if
were,
everybody-
we were talking about doing a combined informational fair and work fair down at the COA with the veterans agent and the COA, not only on these exemptions, but also on the fact of the senior work-off program.
That's right. I remember discussing that, last year.
So I think it would be good probably to have the Veterans Department, Veterans Agent, Board of Assessors here at the
At
same
the same
night.
time, yeah,
Schedule them together,
that's a
in
good
effect
idea.
to brief you guys on all of that.
Good. Kathy, you got all that? All right, thanks.
So, assessors and veterans next week.
Yeah, there's a few others.
And then Concom and
Town clerk.
town clerk.
Yep.
Was there another one?
I don't know, Kathy, was there another one?
Treasurer collector?
Treasurer collector. Who's gonna come in for the who's gonna be doing that?
The treasurer collector.
All right, so I wasn't sure if we even had, so,
We've got one.
okay, all right, just making sure.
I got
I
one.
was like, who's coming in?
They
for
may
that?
or may not be here.
All right, okay. All right, I think that's
Motion
it.
to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night.